Hi, hello, and welcome back to a podcast where I talk about going from corporate drone to corporate dropout and everything feral and contagious. Contagious? Not contagious. Everything feral and insane in between. I don't fucking know. I am unhinged. That feral and unhinged in between. Anyways, we are getting comfy cozy up in here today. If you're not watching, you would not know that I am currently very leaned back because, thank you, Mike Arm, in my chair because we are going to be talking about my favorite thing. This time of year, my favorite thing is the thing that is printed all over my body currently, Halloween Horror Nights. I have merch from many, many years. I have an entire shelf dedicated to the infamous Blinky Cup, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Blinky Cup. But I have an entire shelf dedicated to the infamous Blinky Cup in these shelves behind me in my little setup here. I have some horror icons that have been represented in some of these Funko Pops I've even bought at Halloween Horror Nights. What else do I have around me that is Horror Nights other than, my beanie and my shirt, and just about half of my existence is literally dedicated to Halloween Horror Nights and watching props go up and going and filming props and going to the event, trying food, trying drinks, going through haunted houses, loving on scare zones. My obsession with that event is unmatched at this point. I am deep into the lore and I know everything. Well, no, I don't. There are content creators that have much larger, deeper obsessions than even I, which is actually kind of impressive given the fact that I have been doing this event for almost 2 decades. This year was year 19 for me, and was it a goddamn fucking good one. Now, I did something different this year, and while every content creator on the face of the fucking planet is telling you it was not worth the money, it was not a premium night, there were too many people. Was it a little overcrowded for like a premium ticketed event? Sure, maybe, if you really want to look at it and compare it to last year where they only sold like 3,000 fucking tickets. Yeah, no fucking shit, it's gonna be a little bit different. But when you look at the price, and I have a bone to pick with the content creators on the internet that are saying, oh, I spent $400. $415 was the end price. None of these damn content creators that bought the Premium Scream event bought it at the end, like a week before the event sold out. Not a chance in fucking hell. Is that what they did? They did what I did and bought it when tickets dropped back in like July, when it was $325 for annual pass holders and $350 for the regular people. They didn't spend $400 on it, 1. 2, if you went the next night for opening night and you are not a premier pass holder, which some content creators are, some content creators are not, who knows? If you went the next night and you only bought the single night ticket, which again, most of these guys are buying frequent fears, so it don't really matter. Anyhoozle, the single night ticket and the express pass for opening night, which was the night after Premium Scream, was the exact same price that I paid for just my Premium Scream. And guess what was free on Premium Scream? Premium Scream had all of your food included. And yes, lines were a little bit long, but you could strategically plan it so that you hit food booths that no one was at, and get all of the delicious food with maybe like a 5 to 10 minute wait at most. And the ones that I waited, 5 to 10 minutes for when it came to food, in my experience with Premium Scream this year, I got fresh, hot out of the fucking fryer food. And they told us when we got in line, say for instance with the temper tantrum, there we go, tendies, they told us when we got in line, hey, it'll be 2 to 3 minutes for the tendies, right? So we waited that 2 to 3 minutes and we got our tendies. And they were delicious and they were hot out of the oven and they were like the best kind of drunky snack. And it was great. I love how I'm talking about drunk snacks after just saying in a previous episode that I don't really drink anymore. I don't really drink anymore. I do it for, events like that, and I had a hotel room. Anyways, not important. Premium Scream was absolutely worth the price as long as you enjoyed some of the free food. Because the lines were about equal to what you would spend on Express, but the crowd levels were significantly less. So your line wait time was maybe 20 minutes, which I've spent more than that in an Express line at this event throughout the years, but that was the only wait time. It's not like what we're already seeing with the event this year, because it is so goddamn good, where FNAF, which I will talk about as the gamer, we will talk about FNAF, where FNAF hits capacity almost every night. the line hits capacity before the event even opens. And you know what capacity is in that line? It's over 3 hours. The wait time is over 3 hours. And your express pass, well, this isn't typically the case. Technically speaking, they could make you wait up to an hour and a half in the express line for a line that is over 3 hours. Because it is only guaranteed to cut the line in half with express. The only way you truly get front of the line access at Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights is your RIP tour. And not everyone enjoys the RIP tour version of things. I am one of those people that I would rather do express over RIP tour because I like to try all the food booths, which you don't get with RIP tour usually unless you have time before or after your tour. And at that point, you've already had the food that's included with your tour, blah, blah, blah. I like the food. I like to stop for drinks. I like to control my night a little bit more than what is allowed with RIP tour, at least the non-private ones. I haven't done a private one, so I can't speak for that. However, the event this year, despite content creators trying to tell people the premium scream was not worth the price it was sold at, y'all have lost your goddamn heads and have forgotten what this event can look like in, the Stranger Things era where the front of the park had 3-hour waits just for no fucking reason because it was Stranger Things. And, food on average is, $12 to $15 a dish. Oh, if I've already paid for my ticket and my shorter wait times, my food is then free. That's how I girl mathed my way into this event. Anyways, that being said, I said we'd talk about the Blinky Cup. The Blinky Cup did not return this year, which is unfortunate. I've seen a lot of people making their regular standard cup Blinky, which is very funny, and I love it. I love that people are thinking about the Blinky cubes or putting a patch on the bottom to make them blink, because the Blinky cups are a staple of the Halloween Horror Nights event. The cup design, they put a lot of work into, so they did try to at least make up for the fact that it didn't blink, and I'm actually very happy with the design. It's very pretty. It goes with the whole conservatory theme of the event. I love it. That is, staple item number 1. Number 2, they got rid of Twisted Taters, which I personally loved the Twisted Taters on a stick if they were done right. Sometimes they were a little soggy. I usually got them early in the night when I would get them, but they weren't something that I absolutely had to have every year. Just like pizza fries, like sometimes if I'm in that area, I'll pick up pizza fries, but they're not something I have to have. They are, considered staples of the event, and I've heard the Twisted Chips are just not the same, which valid. And those are, staple items that we've talked about with Horror Nights in the past that didn't return this year, which is very sad. Of the returning things, pizza fries obviously are a thing, but we didn't get s'mores fries this year. Sad, very sad day. And we got Mel's Die-In. But Mel's had an interesting upgrade in the form of there were zombie diner and whatnot, and I think there's a couple new dishes and things like that. But there are scare actors surrounding Mel's, living to the "we're dying to serve you Mel's Die-In" vibes. And I kind of love that because I was the kid that I created a Dead 50s sock hop zombie Halloween costume when I was a kid. So that was kind of just a little callback to my childhood for me and Mel's. It's not a scare zone, but it wasn't really an extra experience like they tried to sell it. Unlike its other extra experience that is Club Horror, the vibes in Club Horror have been clearly well received. The DJ, the dancers. I have a friend of mine from the past who is actually currently working as a dancer, so it's very cool to see her and her fellow coworkers going viral on the internet. Everyone is loving Club Horror. And I love that for them. I love that there's a fun little club vibe in the middle of the park, and it gives that dead space in the Harry Potter area a little bit of a fun vibe that isn't, like the rest of the park where it's spooky and scary, and it's a fun little area to kind of chill in during the Lagoon show, which also made a return this year. Didn't watch it, don't really care for the shows, and after Bill and Ted was left the stage, I really stopped watching the shows unless there's an icon performance show like the old Jack Blender show. Other than that, I don't really pay much attention to the shows. I'll look at the Lagoon show if I'm walking around, but I'm not going to stop and specifically watch it at certain times. Now that we've discussed, food, premium scream night, let's dive into it. Let's dive into the houses and why this year's event is so amazing. Now, here in Orlando, if you are not media, you're not allowed to film, or else I would insert clips of the videos and whatnot in this podcast. But we're not allowed to film, so I don't have a lot of that. I have some, photos and things of the sets and scare zones or whatever, but the houses are the main show this year. The scare zones are amazing, and they definitely upgraded the sets in the scare zones. The scare actors are doing an amazing job. I had green extensions in my hair, and when I was going through the Toxic 20s, I was sitting here wondering why so many of the scare actors were coming after me, and I realized that was because my hair looked like the goo. I was toxic inside of this scare zone, and it was great, and it was fun, and they were playing off of my outfit, and I loved that. I don't get scared easily, so I love them all kind of coming after me. They're getting a lot closer in your face this year, especially with the roaming Art the Clown, who is, knocking on bathroom door stalls and wandering around in merch shops and sitting with people at their dinner. And I love that. Art the Clown's not inherently scary. He's not really spooking people. He's kind of just being a fun, silly clown, a la Jack the Clown, and I'm okay with that. And the scare actors in the scare zones are contained to their scare zones as they always are. Potter is still a safe area, just like it always is, despite the fact that people on the internet like to argue me. That area is always going to be a safe space. Same with DreamWorks. If you really want to get into the back of the park, go hang out in that DreamWorks area, because it's going to be empty, and that's where your pizza fries are, and you can grab some pizza fries and chill for a minute after, whatever. But honestly, if you're going to be in that area of the park, I'm specifically going back to the event to try the ramen, because I was so full I didn't get to try it during Premium Scream Night. However, back to what I was talking about, the houses. Oh my god. There is not a single, full-blown dud in this year's batch of houses. There's not even really a comedy house, which I was expecting. Usually you have the comedy house, right? You have the house that's kind of just funny, silly, not really any good scares in it. It's just kind of a good vibe. Beetlejuice comes to mind when I think of that. There's not even that this year. Now, I don't get scared, really, judging the houses off of my own scare factor. Not so much. But because I'm a gamer, we've got to go into FNAF. And I'm sorry, Hollywood, I've seen yours. We got the better end of the deal. You might have the more advanced animatronic for Freddy, but we got the whole gang. And I could not believe my eyeballs standing in front of these things. The opening stage, when you're in the pizzeria in Orlando, is a set design that I don't know that Universal can top. And it's not like a super detailed, you can tell you're inside the pizzeria. It's the Jim Henson Creature Shop combination just live in front of you. A lot of people talked about the behind the screens, thing that they did when FNAF, the movie, originally came out. I felt like I went to that experience where they saw the original movie animatronics and suits, because I was sitting in front of them. You had Bonnie, Freddy, Chica on the stage jamming out to Talking in Your Sleep, and then the power goes down, and then you get fucking Foxy coming out of Pirate's Cove. He has his own little cove, just like he does in the games, which was a great little Easter egg, which I don't think there's a Pirate's Cove in the movies, so it was definitely a game. I feel like Orlando has a few more game Easter eggs, right? There's a whole scene with Chica and the pots and pans, and if you've played FNAF 1, you know the infamous sound of, oh, I don't have to worry about Chica because I can hear the pots and pans. She's in the kitchen. And the night guard stand. And I'm really genuinely hoping with the second movie coming out, we see the night guard and Balloon Boy and Mangle and the rest of the animatronics in next year's house. I am hoping that they didn't spend all of this money to build all of these animatronics for them to not go into a second and potentially third, given that we know that there's 3 FNAF movies, houses. I need to see Mangle. I need to see the rest of the animatronic crew, maybe even in the third movie, we'll get some of the security breach. They alluded to maybe security breach with some of the merch items that we got for HHN. We got a security breach energy drink that definitely has the glam rock animatronics from security breach. So there is a potential we get to see Monty and Roxy and the rest of the security breach animatronics in the end of the second movie in a future house. Why would you tease us with security breach merch if we don't get security breach in the future in the movie timeline? Yes, the movies make up their own, lore and story, but they are still loosely based on the lore of the games, as was the house. The house mostly covers you're in the pizzeria, you get Afton being killed by Bonnie, and you get Springtrapped at the end, and you get the story from the movie that is definitely more cohesive than the lore of the games, for sure, but you also get little Easter eggs from the games, like the dum-dum-dums from Foxy, and Foxy running at you, and Chica in the pots and pans, and a lot of Cupcake. So much Cupcake, which again is very unique to the movie because, Cupcake kind of just exists in the games. You don't even realize, at least I didn't when I played through the games, that Cupcake can be his own standalone animatronic. So, at least not in the first game. So, you get a lot of Cupcake charging at you like you do in the movie, but you also get so much more. The opening scene animatronics and some of the puppetry throughout the house, well, FNAF isn't scary, in my opinion. To some people, if you fear animatronics, sure, it's scary. Disney World would be scary to you at that point. But it is a fan service to both the movie fandom and the game fandom. Seeing those animatronics live and in person, and yeah, people will joke of, there's a whole giant fandom telling you why this is a bad idea. It wasn't a bad idea. It wasn't. Seeing all of that up close and personal as, someone who's newer to the FNAF fandom, because I literally started playing the games and watched the movie and all of that because of a rumor it was coming to Horror Nights 3 years ago. That's when I got into the fandom, and now I watch, all of Astral Spiff's videos on, Ultimate Custom Night and playing all of the FNAF games in one sitting, and all of his many, many FNAF videos, Security Breach GeoGuessr, and all of those things. I also, while I hadn't ever played the games or watched the movie, I have been a long game theory fan. So I had seen a lot of Matt Pat's lore videos before I even played the games. So I have been adjacently aware of this fandom for longer than the 3 years I've been a part of it. But now that I've played the games, minus Secret of the Mimic, I am excited at the potential of future houses. And normally I'm not big on repeat houses. I think the only series that has done repeat of the same idea was American Horror Story, and that's just because the seasons were also different from each other, that the houses never felt like they were coming from the same fandom. Walking Dead had its moment. Stranger Things, the houses kind of progressively got worse. Like, I don't even think they tried with the Vecna in the last, Stranger Things. I want to see the completion of Stranger Things houses with the last season, just because I want to see, the last season come to life like I have every other season. But we never got a completion of American Horror Story, so we probably won't get a completion of Stranger Things. I don't know. But FNAF, well, not the scariest. I will not try and say, oh, it's a 10 out of 10 on scare factor, is a gorgeous house. I physically could not put it at the bottom of a tier list when it comes to Horror Nights, because I am big on sets. I'm big on costume design. I am big on, if you wow me with that kind of stuff, you'll probably distract me enough to actually scare me, because I'm so distracted by all of the fun elements of the design of these houses. So that's FNAF. Fallout, unfortunately, was exactly what I feared, which is it has a lot of gimmicks, but it wasn't a good house. It was hyped because the Fallout fandom, similar to FNAF in the gaming world, is well loved, and the series on Prime is also really well loved, but the house just missed the mark, realistically. And that is unfortunate. It's definitely bottom tier for me, but it also is possible I could have just hit it really bad. Who knows? That's the fun of Horror Nights, is as the season progresses, everything changes. I love to see the progress of the event and how the little tweaks they make. I'm hearing that they made tweaks to Terrifier, which is the house I went semi-viral for. talking about. I joked about, Universal becoming their own enemy by flooding their own house. They've tried for years to balance out the flooding in the tent houses because of rain. They still haven't succeeded at that, by the way. Holy hell, were my feet wet. And now they decided to flood their own house even in a soundstage. I made a joke. It wasn't supposed to break containment, and it's now currently sitting at like 85,000 views when normally I am lucky to break 1,000. I wasn't hyping the house. I was just making a joke that they flooded it. And they did. They flooded it multiple nights. And so people were arguing me, oh, it didn't flood. Someone slipped. I'm like, no, it flooded. They have literally said multiple times that it flooded. But anyways, Terrifier, let's talk about it. Smells. I am not going to judge the smells unless I get the chance to go back through it. The house, when I went through it, I was one of the first 10 people through it on the second night of operation. There were no smells in that house. But I can confirm the smells are putrid this year across the houses as a whole, because as the night got later and I went through Hatchet and Chains, I was in a house that smelled so obnoxiously awful. I think I missed every scare in it because it smelled like vomit, the entire house. And I thought I was going insane, or that, someone actually did vomit. But then I heard another creator talk about it, and finally, someone else confirmed that the smell was just bad. And also in the Dolls Let's Play Dead house, which I assumed was going to be kind of the gimmicky silly house, and actually was really well done. I got a plasticky smell, and in Gawkin we got the trees. So smells are definitely happening this year. Were they bad for me in Terrifier? No, they weren't pumping yet, because I know that bathroom scene smell that they're referencing, and that did not exist in Terrifier for me. I don't know if they've toned it down, toned it up. It was a run for me because we were early in the night and they just hadn't really pumped them in yet. It could have been anything, but for me, the smells, I don't even think I smelled anything in that house, to be honest. It was a fun clown cafe, singing, dancing. It was a fun house. To me, gore scares aren't scary. They're kind of just silly to me most of the time. Gore and slashers have always been kind of the silliest kills when it comes to horror and silliest scares. So I knew Terrifier and me, it's just kind of a meh vibe, but it was a fun house. I can understand why horror fans are obsessed with Art the Clown and his kills, and it was definitely gory, so if you don't like that, definitely not a place for you. It was a fun house. The wet path. Some have said you don't get wet at all. Some have said you don't, they're drenched. My experience, I came out drenched. I was also, me and my mother who went with me were the only two people in the wet path at the time. We had our own little party in the blood party. I don't remember it being colored. Obviously the water's not colored, but I don't remember lights. I remember kind of feeling like I was going through the old water tunnel in Poseidon's Fury, is what it reminded me of. But I also, for a second, thought they mixed the blood party with the drunk bridge. And I was about to be very scared for people drinking later on in the night, because those two would be a lethal combination, and I could understand why people were slipping and falling at that point. But I came out drenched, and it seems the wet path is just inconsistent here in Orlando. And that's okay. The houses in general are kind of inconsistent. You're never going to have the same run as somebody else, which is why all of your tier lists are so different. But I think the next house is kind of universally agreed upon at this point to be the top scare house of the year. And that's Jason Universe. My genuine shock at this house, it was undersold. Even from a merch perspective, there's not a lot of Jason Universe merch. The hype is all around FNAF. The hype is all around Terrifier. Even Wyatt 6 is getting more attention than Jason Universe, the classic slasher at the horror event. But I think that's why it's the classic slasher at the horror event. We've seen Jason done in 500 different ways, and I was kind of meh about it. I was like, I've seen Jason houses done. I've seen them build the camp. I've seen Jason chasing me with chainsaws, running around in between sheets. My first Jason house was the second or third year I was going to the event. It was not new to me. I was not excited about it, but they proved me wrong. They are using blinding you with fog or darkness to their advantage this year. And the Jason Gauntlet at the end of the Jason Universe house was no different. I want to go back through that house again in so many different ways, but I don't think I'm going to get the opportunity to because I don't plan on buying Express at any point if I do go back, and I don't particularly wish to wait in obnoxiously long lines. And that house is going to be a popular house pretty much all season long. A lot of the people that went early in the season have definitely been screaming its praises, and it is making it just as popular as some of the overhyped houses like FNAF and Terrifier. When it comes to the originals this year, usually I am an original stan. Originals take priority over IPs all day, every day, because I am so deep into the lore of this event and all of the sets and all of the actual design and creativity from Universal Creative. None of them were lacking. All of these houses were amazing. Hatchet and Chains and Grave of Flesh were probably my two lower end. I feel Hatchet and Chains probably would have been higher had I been able to tolerate the house itself, but the smell was so bad I could not pay attention to the story, the sets, any of it. I was about ready to vomit at how bad the vomit smell in that house was. So those two are my lower rated originals. But the only one that would break my IP list of being the top 5, in my opinion, is El Artista. While Hatchet and Chains, Dolls, Let's Play Dead, Gawkin, they were all gorgeous houses. Grave of Flesh has this crazy, you're walking into your own graveyard kind of scene. The sets were amazing. The scare actors were amazing. The costuming was amazing. I am not hating on these houses. They were all great. But El Artista was a different level of amazing, even for Horror Nights and the originals that I love so much. But the IPs this year just swept. From a original, like, to source material kind of vibe, from a set design vibe, from a scare vibe. El Artista is the only one that, scare-wise, Jason, El Artista, Terrifier. And then, FNAF's not scary, but I have to put it in my top 5. Set design, it would definitely be El Artista, top, my god, FNAF, and then we start to get into, again, it's so many different aspects of how to rate a house. El Artista definitely takes the cake for set design. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous house, scare actors everywhere. Fun scares in different ways. You had bungee scares, you had over the head scares. It was such a big open set too that you didn't feel, and maybe this was just due to the low crowd capacity, I don't know, but you didn't feel like you were missing scares because of the person in front of you. Could have stayed in that house for years. Same with FNAF, and sets like that make me feel like I am still missing all of these little details and I need to just sit and observe everything, are the houses that get me. Because I get so distracted by the little details that I don't actually see the boo hole in front of me. And those are the houses that are likely to scare me because I'm distracted. And even after a night full of cocktails and shenanigans where we ended with El Artista, that house won me over. I got a couple good scares in. The set was amazing. The costuming with the gargoyles and the story and how that story flooded into the rest of the scare zones and all the vibes around the park. The cohesive design of the theming this year reminded me of the old Carnival of Carnage ripped from the silver screen. While we didn't have an official icon, unless you count art, which I don't, because icons to me are original Universal-owned characters, there was so much nerdy. I got to feel the love of this event, love that went into El Artista, and how it flowed into the rest of the park. That Spanish Gothic vibe was seen everywhere. The old, folklore storytelling even kind of bled its way into Cat Lady, A Crooked Lane, and that scare zone, holy hell. the details that are in that scare zone, the storybook, following the story all through the scare zone and seeing the progression of kid to halfway cat to full-blown cat, and knowing that the little cat pictures and collars and toys are all from team members who worked on the design of that scare zone. The full-blown freaking house they built in the middle of the theme park, and the little mini haunted house off to the side where cats can come out of boo holes and scare you. I loved it. That is the scare zone of the year for me. There are so many pretty scare zones, and Toxic 20s was fun, but we've seen, Poisonous, we've seen the Roaring 20s, we've seen so many different versions of, old school New York, if you will, that it's fun. But nothing holds a candle to Cat Lady of Crooked Lane. The sets, the people, the way the scare actors aren't just rolling their eyes at the dumbass creators that are bringing them mice and cat treats and whatnot. That is Scare Zone of the Year. And for House of the Year, it's so hard. Currently, me as the FNAF fan wants to say, purely from a fan service, I want to say FNAF. It was a FNAF, it lives up to the hype that it is holding 3-hour waits because of how amazing Jim Henson's Creature Shop did with the animatronics. If I'm going original, it's El Artista, and if I'm going for scares, it's Jason. No loyalty to a house this year, and that is a first for me. I could not tell you the last time that all 10 houses or 8 or however many there was at certain points in the event were just amazing and deserving of the hour-plus waits that you see. Universal really upped their game this year. While we might be sad that we've lost some of the staples of the event, like the Blinky Cup, I think they're on the right track back to bringing this event to the good versions of the event. That being said, we do need to talk about kids at the event. And I think I'm going to create a whole separate episode as we progress into the season and maybe as I go back, because FNAF is pissing off the, parents who aren't socially aware of what that lore and that series is about, or what Horror Nights is about even. Parents who don't do their research and don't parent and don't know what their kids are doing on the fucking internet. And so I might create a whole separate episode talking about the No Boo necklace and how I feel about that, alongside, kids at the event and parents being enraged. And I made a comment very early on that, again, I went comment viral over, that said, if parents complain about Terrifier if it lives up to the hype, and parents start complaining that it was too scary for their kid that they chose to bring to the event, and it causes Universal to tone down the event at any point after or during this season, I'm gonna be mad. And it's already happening. Now, it's not with Terrifier, because I hope parents at least have the common sense not to let your 6-year-old watch Terrifier, of all things. They don't, mind you. But parents are complaining about the event and it not being kid-friendly, and I am worried that Universal, with the No Boo necklaces and everything else, is starting to pander to dumbass parents, because the money dumbass parents bring in with kids spending on merch for properties like FNAF. FNAF has a large adult fandom, sure, but, adults probably aren't gonna spend money on, well, that's a lie. I totally would spend money on FNAF plushies. And I have, and will continue to do so. Look at my background. That's not the point, though. Point being is Universal pandering to parents that don't listen to even the bare minimum age recommendation are a problem at this event. And I do want to talk about it, but this episode's already kind of long, and I wanted to focus on the houses and the amazing design and amazing work Universal Creative has put into this house this year. The new hub, a lot of people hate it, but I kind of love it. I love being kind of secluded in the back sound stages to do a whole bunch of houses in a circle. There is a lot more walking than with the other hub. It's a lot more intuitive with the backside hub that had Fallout and Gawkin than it is with the 4-house hub up front. My mom and I actually got lost at one point trying to find the last 2 houses, trying to find FNAF and Wyatt 6. It was not intuitively connected, the two sides, but it was fine. I think we ended up doing a little bit more walking than normal. Walking, when you come out of one house, you come out of the opposite side of where you need to go back. And so there's some work that could be done with the new routing there if you really want to make it convenient for people. And I haven't seen the new hub at full capacity. I did worry that moving some of these lines into the sound stages are going to create less capacity in those lines. So having both FNAF and Terrifier and even Wyatt 6, I don't follow WWE, but it sounds like that house has a pretty large fandom as well. So you have 3 really large fandoms all in one area, and they think it would have been beneficial to Universal to spread those out more across the, spread them out more across the park. And I know these houses were so big that you probably couldn't have, that they needed to be in the sound stages, but from a just crowd control perspective, I don't feel like having 2 of your biggest, most hyped properties of the season in the same exact area was a good idea, because when one has a 3-hour wait, the next one is just gonna move to that 3-hour wait as people start exiting FNAF to go to Terrifier or vice versa. Usually it's FNAF that starts because all the signs say FNAF is the first house to open, so people start queuing there first. But is the new hub a problem? I think it's got some kinks to work out, but not being stuck in the rain is a good thing. Not being stuck in the heat, if it's overly hot, is a good thing. Think they underestimated the amount of people that would wait for Terrifier. That line seems way too short to me. And I think you definitely could add some capacity to, the FNAF line. But, once it gets to 3 hours, who really wants to wait in it anyway? I would take being undercover in a soundstage waiting over the previous line versions, which were all outside, any day. So I'm hoping that as, this Rip Ride Rocket construction continues, which is the reason for the hub this year, we actually get to keep the hub. I didn't mind it. I would be okay if we don't have to go back to going through Jimmy Fallon to get to a house, and if we don't have to go back to going through New York to get to the houses. And I also, if I remember correctly, the Jimmy Fallon house was a tent house. So we got extra soundstage houses this year, and I'm not mad about that. The sound stages give you a lot of extra capability, in my opinion, that I'm okay seeing more soundstage houses. I want to see more, houses like Cabin in the Woods was, where you fully felt immersed into it. Like Terrifier is this year, like FNAF is this year, like El Artista is this year. The tent houses are great and all, but they're usually the ones that are lacking a little bit just because of what capability they have. So I'm okay if we get more sound stages and less tent, but we don't really know. For this year, I've only been once. I plan to return, but for right now, this event is probably the best it's been in, a decade. I can't remember the last time I was this hyped coming out of the event. I love the event, and I will always go, even if it's a trash year. But this year was not that. It was a lot of fuckery, with Premium Scream Night and people screaming about how it wasn't worth the price, and I disagree. I absolutely disagree, and maybe that's just because I'm not a Horror Nights content creator. I'm not trying to tell people, what's the best way to do the event, and constantly, repeatedly going to the event and seeing different crowd levels and things like that. But from my experience, having done the event for, 10 to 20 years, if you only have one night, I would rather spend it with 7,500 people over 35,000 people any day. You're guaranteed to have lower capacity at Premium Scream. You're not guaranteed, if you go on a Wednesday for Horror Nights on a regular night, that it's going to be anything less than a Saturday night. Because a lot of people have found out our old tips and tricks. And unfortunately, no one can gatekeep any of the Horror Nights secrets anymore because of content creators. So all of the old things that we used to do no longer are, whether it be Express After 11, using Stay and Scream, the waiting till later on in the night to run through all the houses real quick, Express, whatever it is, We don't have a lot of that anymore because, you know, content creators have told everybody, and that's what happened with Premium Scream. Content creators went last year, told everyone how amazing it is, and then it sold out this year. Go figure. Universal wanted to make money. And I don't know, at the end of the day, I think it was worth it, especially if you're a foodie and like to try all the food, because it came out to the same price as a single night ticket and express for opening night. So if you care about getting it early, smaller crowds, not small list crowds, right? A lot of people talked about the pulsing. It wasn't perfect. There's definitely some kinks, but it was still overall an event worth the price, especially when you start adding it up all of the food cost. And that was how I justified it, but maybe you can justify it in other ways, or don't justify it all and say Universal's a greedy corporation who will never give you an event that's worth your money. I don't fucking know. That's up to you, how you think about it, but I don't think you should listen to all these creators who are looking for a clickbait, moment saying Premium Scream was the worst thing ever. It wasn't. You didn't waste your $400. Most of them are also putting out food review videos. Guess where they got all their food? They got it for free during Premium Scream, and they knew that that's what they were going to do. So they didn't have to pay for it during the season. I think creators are being a little bit crazy, and we've even got a cat joining us. Yeah, that was my review of Halloween Horror Nights this year. I will be going back because I do still have my Premier Pass holder free ticket. Will I be using Express? Probably not. I don't feel like spending the money because I've already done all the houses. It'll just be a vibe. Check out all the stuff that I didn't really get to spend a lot of time checking out, like Club Horror and the ramen and some of the scare zones, because it was a little rainy, so I didn't get to check out a whole ton of them in, the detailed way that I like to at night. But that's Horror Nights, and that's my chaos and fuckery. I will be continuing to talk about this event throughout the season and talking about, events coming up, like the Grinch, holiday specials, and Festival of the Holidays, and Food and Wine. I could, talk a whole episode on Food and Wine, and I probably will, because I've already been over once. Food and Wine is one of those things that I go through 5 or 6 times throughout August to November, and I do like to talk about ways to survive Food and Wine if you are calorie conscious and macro conscious, so I do short form kind of videos on that. But I do want to talk about, the way that event has changed throughout the years, because that's a Disney's event, but it's that time of year where my special interests